Hello and welcome to Lamplighter. Today is May 20. Today in our daily Bible reading, we continue to read these wise sayings from Solomon and others called the Proverbs. These are tips, these are pieces of advice that all of us can use to make ourselves better people. All of us can use them if we apply them to our lives to develop a kind of character that is the kind of person God wants us to be. And that should be really the goal for every one of us. Let's begin reviewing today's reading together. It starts with a section of Proverbs entitled Control of Self. And as soon as I read those words, I knew I was in trouble. How about you? There are some Proverbs about self-control. Self-control may be the most difficult discipline of all. And the question is why? For people who pride themselves on being in control, or people who often want to be in control, why is it that it's so easy for us to lose control? If you're like me, there are times that you might say or do things without thinking and lose control, at least momentarily, and it's only after the fact, after the damage has been done, that you say, I lost control there for a few minutes. I forgot who I was. I forgot what was important, and I behaved in an unseemly way. Self-control is so very difficult. That's why it's a part of the fruit of the Spirit, as a matter of fact, listed in Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23. One of the toughest of all disciplines is self-control, and that's why there are some proverbs about it. A fool gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man keeps himself under control. It's that simple to read, to understand, very difficult to practice. Then we read some parables about rashness, or not parables, but proverbs about rashness. What is rashness? It's wanting things to happen immediately. Do we often find ourselves speaking before we think, for example, or acting as a reaction to something before we actually think about what is the best response? That's a typical human reaction, to respond rashly before we think. Sometimes people use this expression, haste makes waste. Sometimes when we get in a hurry, we don't have the kind of quality product that we want to have in our lives. We often desire, just as the culture around us has taught us, instant gratification. We want it, and we want it right now. But there's a price to be paid for haste and for rashness. And these proverbs that we read today warn us about such behavior, to be cautious, to keep our eyes open, and more importantly, to keep our minds open, to think first, and to act with caution and with diligence and with planning. Then we read some proverbs about temper and patience. Boy, this is getting even more challenging, isn't it? We talked about self-control already, and temper is an example of losing control of oneself once again. Patience being juxtaposed with that, just the opposite. Patience is being able to bide one's time. It's being able to take a step back. It's being able to remain calm in the heat of the moment. Let's look at some of these proverbs together. A fool shows his annoyance at once, but a prudent man overlooks an insult. A wise man fears the Lord and shuns evil, but a fool is hot-headed and reckless. A man's wisdom gives him patience. It is to his glory to overlook an offense. Do not make friends with a hot-tempered man. Do not associate with one who is easily angered, or you may learn his ways and get yourself ensnared. Be careful who you're with, because you might learn some bad habits, is what the writer here is suggesting. And then there are some proverbs regarding drunkenness and gluttony. Interestingly, these two link together. Eating too much, drinking too much, losing control. Again, it's this whole idea of learning to control oneself. Both of these represent a lack of control and thus a significant weakness. Whenever you look at the top of page 636, there may be the best description in the Bible about the woes of a person who is given to drink. Notice this. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaints? Who has needless bruises? Who has bloodshot eyes? Those who linger over wine, who go to sample bowls of mixed wine. Do not gaze at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup, when it goes down smoothly. In the end, it bites like a snake and poisons like a viper. Your eyes will see strange sights and your mind imagine confusing things. You will be like one sleeping on the high seas, lying on top of the rigging. They hit me, you will say, but I'm not hurt. They beat me, but I don't feel it. When will I wake up so I can find another drink? It's a pretty powerful and dramatic description of the power that alcohol or mixed drinks or whatever it might be can have over us if we give into it. Again, it's a matter of self-control. And then there's a long section of Proverbs on adultery. And again, this is a place where it's written more like a father giving advice to his sons to avoid adultery or to avoid even the opportunity for adultery. Specifically, avoiding an adulterous woman is what this text deals with. Let's read some excerpts together here. For the lips of an adulteress drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. It sounds so inviting. She sounds so alluring. But in the end, she is bitter as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword. She gives no thought to the way of life. Her paths are crooked, but she knows it not. Keep to a path far from her. Do not go near the door of her house. Make a decision ahead of time, he says, to not even present yourself with an opportunity to get ensnared. We read on, for a man's ways are in full view of the Lord, and he examines all his paths. The evil deeds of a wicked man ensnare him. The cords of his sin hold him fast. He will die for lack of discipline, led astray by his own great folly. My son, keep your father's commands, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. Build them or bind them around your neck. When you walk, they will guide you. When you sleep, they will watch over you. When you awake, they will speak to you. For these commands are a lamp. This teaching is a light. Lamp and light, just as his word is for us. For these commands are a lamp, this teaching is a light, and the corrections of discipline are the way to life. Can a man scoop fire into his lap without his clothes being burned? Can a man walk on hot coals without his feet being scorched? You play with fire, you will get burned, is the caution of these parents to their children. And then finally, we end today with a little section on prostitution, which is basically described as a wasted life. God doesn't want us to waste our life. He wants us to live abundantly, to live life to the full. And that can happen if we follow his ways. Isn't it great to be a lamplighter? His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. I hope you have a blessed day.